So I want you to picture the sensory reality of an American living room in, like, the late 1940s.
Okay, I'm there.
Right, so the late afternoon light is fading. You've got these long shadows across the floorboards. And millions of children are just rushing through their front doors.
Oh, yeah, dropping the school books right on the floor.
Exactly, ignoring the kitchen entirely and just gravitating toward this glowing, humming wooden box in the living room.
The radio.
The radio, the vacuum tubes inside are warming up. You get that faint metallic ozone smell, and a soft amber light.
Yeah, and they aren't looking at a screen. That's the wild part for us today.
They are staring at fabric speaker grills, just allowing this 15-minute broadcast to completely override their physical surroundings.
Oh, totally. It just plunges them right into the center of a raging typhoon in the South Pacific.
Which is just a staggering neurological phenomenon when you actually stop to analyze it.
It really is. I mean, this daily ritual, it required a massive cognitive load from the audience. Like, we often categorize early radio as primitive, I guess, just because it lacked the visual data of television or modern film.
Sure, it seems simple on the surface.
But cognitively, auditory storytelling demands that your brain's visual cortex fires continuously just to construct the missing environments.
You're doing the rendering yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The listener is co-processing the sound waves and actively rendering, like the Sulu Sea, the storm clouds, the architecture of a sinking ship, all in real time.
It's a highly active state of consumption.
Yeah, entirely different from, the passive reception of modern visual media.
And that active rendering is exactly what we are dissecting today in this deep dive.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one.
Right. We are looking at the classic Golden Age radio serial, Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy.
A total classic.
Specifically, we're focusing on the complete adventure arc of the Sunken Reef.
Which is just a phenomenal story.
And we're working from these absolutely pristine broadcasts preserved and shared by Chesterton Radio.
Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out Chesterton Radio, you really need to.
Oh, definitely. Broadcasting from that great little station on Commercial Street in historic Atchison, Kansas, keeping the Golden Age alive.
It's a treasure trove.
It really is. Now, our objective today isn't just to recap the plot. We want to dismantle the actual architecture of 1940s serialized audio storytelling.
Right, looking at the mechanics.
Yeah, how writers built these perilous worlds using basically just dialogue, silence, and studio sound effects.
And the rigorous nautical and technical engineering they embedded right into the scripts.
Yes. Plus, we have to look at the deeply revealing cultural anthropology hidden within the sponsor commercials.
Oh man, the commercials. You have to start there.
You really do. Because the craftsmanship of these serials, it relies heavily on absolute narrative efficiency.
Right, because they only had, roughly 12 to 15 minutes per installment?
Exactly. So every line of dialogue had to serve multiple functions simultaneously.
It had to advance the plot, establish spatial geography, and ratchet up the tension all at once.
But before we even get to the mechanics of the Spindrift's voyage, the broadcast didn't start with ocean waves.
No, it started with the sponsor.
Right. Wheaties. And the Wheaties commercials embedded in these broadcasts, they aren't merely advertisements.
No, they are highly engineered psychological frameworks.
Totally. They were designed to build this intense parasocial relationship with the juvenile audience.
And the integration of the sponsor into the ethos of the show is just seamless.
They aren't just selling toasted whole wheat flakes.
Not at all. They are selling a comprehensive doctrine of mid-century American virtue.
Yes, and the most aggressive and honestly fascinating campaign in these specific broadcasts is the Sideliners Club.
Oh, the Sideliners Club is brilliant marketing.
It's wild. The announcer bypasses the serial entirely at first. He just targets this deep, universal adolescent insecurity.
Right, he outlines a very specific scenario. You are sitting on the bench.
Yeah, your peers are out on the field, winning their varsity letters, commanding attention, and you are relegated to the margins.
It's brutal. He tells the listener, you have latent potential, but your physical conditioning is holding you back.
You are categorized as a sideliner, which the announcer frames as this highly socially undesirable status that requires immediate correction.
The rhetorical strategy there is just genius, because it establishes a profound problem, social isolation, and physical inadequacy.
And then immediately provides a structured, accessible solution.
Exactly. The sponsor positions itself not as some faceless corporation, but as a surrogate coach or a mentor.
Right. To exit the Sideliners Club, you have to adopt Jack Armstrong's 3 personal training rules.
And they are very specific rules.
Oh, very. Rule 1. Prioritize fresh air, sleep, and rigorous exercise.
Which is just good advice.
Rule 2. Utilize abundant soap and water.
Equating physical cleanliness with athletic readiness.
Totally. And then Rule 3. Consume a breakfast of champions daily.
Right, the cereal is positioned merely as the final component of this holistic lifestyle regimen.
And they validate this regimen through a staggering roster of celebrity endorsements.
Oh, the endorsements are incredible.
They really ground the fictional Jack Armstrong in the very real world of 1940s sports and exploration.
Just within this one story arc, the announcer deploys testimonials from baseball icons.
Right.
Like Bob Feller and Johnny Mize.
Right, and football's Don Hudson.
And golf pioneer Patty Burke.
Yes. But the scope of the endorsements, it reveals the specific brand of extreme resilience they were selling.
Yeah, they cite Ab Jenkins.
The endurance racer.
Exactly. They describe him driving a racing car at over 150 miles an hour for 24 consecutive hours on the salt flats.
Which is insane.
And the announcer attributes his survival in that grueling scenario to, quote, good nerves, unquote, maintained by keeping in training.
With Wheaties. And then they include Captain Bob Bartlett, which is even more indicative of this extreme survivalist marketing.
Right. Bartlett was a legendary Arctic explorer.
And the announcer explicitly details Bartlett enduring temperatures of 40 degrees below zero, navigating through ice and snow in the frozen north.
And the narrative leap they ask the listener to make here is wild.
Ah, it's so funny.
They imply that Bartlett sustains this extreme thermal regulation through a bowl of cold Wheaties.
I just have to challenge the sheer audacity of the nutritional science they deploy to justify that leap.
Oh, the fuel energy units.
Yes, the fuel energy units, because the announcer anticipates the listener's logical objection.
Right, that in the dead of winter, a kid would naturally want a hot, cooked breakfast to stay warm.
Right, like oatmeal or something. But the script counters this by explaining that a cold bowl of Wheaties contains these fuel energy units.
And they claim these units metabolize in the body like coal burning in a literal furnace.
They are overriding basic thermodynamics with this highly mechanized view of human biology.
Yeah, arguing that a cold cereal is scientifically superior for heat generation because of its fuel density.
It's just wild, but I guess it reflects the broader industrialization of nutrition during that era.
Oh, for sure. The concept of vitamins was still relatively novel in the public consciousness.
Right. They lean heavily into the biochemistry of vitamin B1.
The announcer goes into detail about how vitamin B1 is critical for maintaining a robust appetite and stabilizing the nervous system.
And they differentiate their product by claiming their specific manufacturing process protects the vitamin B1.
Right, that it's typically destroyed when raw wheat is cooked.
So they're teaching a juvenile audience advanced nutritional vocabulary.
Elevating a simple breakfast choice to a matter of scientific optimization.
But, and this is crucial, the underlying motivation for this physical and moral optimization goes far beyond winning a high school baseball game.
Oh, absolutely.
There is this tonal shift in the Christmas broadcast that exposes the stark geopolitical reality of the time.
That broadcast is a profound historical artifact.
It really is. The announcer delivers the standard holiday greetings from the cast Jack, Uncle Jim, Billy, Betty.
But then he pivots.
Right, to a remarkably solemn address. He instructs the listening children to reflect on their immense privilege,
specifically citing that they live in a nation that is at peace with the world,
enjoying the freedom to speak, act, and think as they please.
And then he explicitly directs their attention to the photographs in the daily newspapers, showing the severe hardships endured by boys and girls in, quote, other lands.
When you place this in its chronological context, the world was rapidly destabilizing.
Oh, right. The adults scripting these commercials, they were acutely aware of the encroaching shadows of global conflict.
They were utilizing the massive reach of this radio network to subtly prepare the next generation for the demands of wartime readiness.
The announcer draws a direct line between personal health and national sovereignty.
He states unequivocally, in these times, the health of the nation plays an important role in keeping it free and independent.
The rhetoric places the burden of national security squarely on the shoulders of the children eating the cereal.
Which is heavy. Showing gratitude for freedom isn't an abstract concept anymore. It is operationalized through obeying laws, striving for excellence, and maintaining tip-top physical condition.
The marketing has fully transformed into civic duty.
Exactly. And this establishes a baseline of moral clarity and high stakes that serves as the perfect psychological runway for the narrative.
Right. The commercial has already demanded that the listener act with bravery and discipline.
And the story immediately demonstrates what that looks like under extreme duress.
It's a seamless transition because the stakes remain globally significant.
So let's enter the premise of the Sunken Reef. We've got our protagonists.
The seasoned, pragmatic Uncle Jim.
The fiercely capable Jack Armstrong.
And their vital crewmates, Billy and Betty.
Right. And they are aboard the Spindrift, which is a traditional two-masted schooner.
They have just navigated out of the headhunting regions and are anchored in the storm-tossed waters of Manila Harbor.
Now, their objective operates on two distinct genre levels simultaneously.
Right, on the surface, it's a classic maritime treasure hunt.
They are looking for Professor Loring's wrecked yacht, which foundered on an uncharted coral reef somewhere in the vastness of the Sulu Sea.
But the treasure they are hunting completely subverts the whole 19th century maritime trope.
Yes. They aren't looking for Spanish silver or gold bullion.
No. The MacGuffin, secured in the hold of the sunken yacht, is a heavy lead box containing a massive quantity of uranium-235.
Which is just, wow. The writers basically bolted bleeding-edge theoretical physics onto a high-seas adventure.
Uncle Jim states that they must recover this element for vital experiments in atomic power.
We are seeing the raw dawn of the atomic age filtering into juvenile entertainment, framing nuclear capability as the ultimate prize.
And the inclusion of uranium-235 elevates the narrative tension from a simple nautical rivalry to a matter of international survival.
Because Uncle Jim makes it explicitly clear that half the nations on the globe are actively hunting this exact cache to weaponize it against the U.S.
And the immediate physical manifestation of that global threat is anchored just across the dark harbor.
The Black Shark.
Yes, commanded by the mercenary Dr. Chapato, alongside his enforcers Blackbeard and Lazaro.
The Black Shark is the technological and moral antithesis of the Spindrift.
Exactly. Where our heroes rely on the ancient mechanics of wind and sail, the villains operate a heavy, diesel-powered schooner.
And where our heroes operate on trust and civic duty, Chapato's crew is motivated purely by greed and violent opportunism.
The juxtaposition of wind power against diesel power creates this perpetual mechanical disadvantage for the heroes.
Which drives the suspense throughout the entire arc.
And that pursuit forces the story to utilize real-world geography as a relentless, active antagonist.
Yeah, the dialogue doesn't just mention locations in passing. It forces the listener to mentally construct the navigational charts.
Right. Escaping Manila Harbor isn't just a matter of sailing away. Uncle Jim and Jack must actively calculate their trajectory through the China Sea.
They debate the tactical merits of the North Channel, which is a restrictive 3 miles wide.
Versus the South Channel, which offers 7 miles of clearance but totally different wind conditions.
This navigational dialogue serves a dual purpose, right?
Oh, yeah. It provides the audience with a highly accurate, informal cartography lesson.
Mapping the complex topography of the Philippine Islands without a screen.
And more importantly, it weaponizes that geography. They explicitly detail the formidable military architecture they have to bypass.
Particularly the island fortress of Corregidor.
Oh, man. They describe Fort Drum in precise, intimidating detail.
Characterizing it as a concrete battleship. A heavily fortified, artificially constructed island bristling with batteries of 6-inch guns and surrounded by lethal minefields.
The genius of the script is that this dense exposition never feels like a lecture.
Not at all, because it is delivered under conditions of extreme panic.
They are attempting to slip out of the bay in the dead of night, running completely dark, with a typhoon bearing down on them.
All while trying to evade the superior speed of the Black Shark.
The tactical environment is terrifying. Typhoon signal number 1 is already raised, indicating massive atmospheric instability.
And to maintain stealth, Betty is forced below decks, navigating the pitching interior of the schooner using only a heavily shielded flashlight.
They are intentionally sailing into a deadly storm because the alternative, being caught by Chapato, is worse.
This sequence perfectly illustrates how the writers mastered the theater of the mind.
When you analyze how suspense is generated in audio drama, the lack of visual information is actually the primary engine of terror.
Right. The Foley artists in the studio, using thunder sheets, splash tanks, wind machines, they create this bed of chaotic ambient noise.
And over that noise, the actors project intense urgency.
The listener's imagination is forced to populate the darkness.
When the Spindrift is tacking violently back and forth against a headwind in a pitch-black harbor, the listener experiences the claustrophobia far more acutely than if a camera simply showed a miniature boat on a soundstage.
Absolutely. And the writers introduce a brilliant tactical evolution in the cat-and-mouse game here.
Oh, yes. The Spindrift crew realizes that Chapato didn't waste time hunting for them in the dark harbor.
Right, leveraging his diesel engine, he just raced ahead to the mouth of the bay to blockade their only exit.
And suddenly, the darkness that was protecting our heroes is shattered.
The massive coastal defense searchlights from Corregidor activate.
Their beams slicing through the storm, sweeping the water for unauthorized vessels. The military is actively scanning the choke point.
The way the script handles this military presence is an incredible subversion of expectations.
It really is. The searchlight sweeps over the water and illuminates the black shark.
Jack and Uncle Jim, anticipating that the Coast Guard will demand identification from a ship loitering in restricted waters during a typhoon warning, engage in this highly sophisticated piece of signals intelligence.
Jack recalibrates the Spindrift's radio equipment, tuning specifically to the 40 megacycle wavelength to intercept the encrypted military communications.
I love this scene. Jack and Billy are huddled in the dark, the deck heaving beneath them.
Listening as the Corregidor station hails the black shark.
And Dr. Chapato executes a masterful psychological manipulation.
He doesn't panic at all.
No. He smoothly adopts the persona of a concerned citizen, lying directly to the military command.
He claims that he represents the rightful owners of the Spindrift, stating that the smaller schooner lacks radio equipment and has recklessly sailed into the storm path.
He frames his loitering as a rescue mission, attempting to locate the rogue vessel and order it back to port.
Chapato effectively weaponizes the United States military's own safety protocols against the protagonists.
It's so smart, and then he makes a calculated, audacious request.
Right, he asks the Coast Guard to utilize their massive searchlights to locate the Spindrift for him.
And to transmit the coordinates so his rescue vessel can intercept them.
And the Coast Guard, believing they are assisting in a maritime rescue during a severe weather event, agrees.
The psychological inversion here is devastating.
Completely. The searchlight, which should represent safety, order, the protective might of the U.S. forces, is instantly transformed into the instrument of their execution.
The listener understands that if that beam of light touches the Spindrift, the military will unwittingly guide the assassins directly to them.
When that 15-mile beam finally begins its sweep across the churning black water toward their position, the suspense is excruciating.
You're just forced to imagine the blinding intensity of that light cutting through the rain, knowing exactly what it signifies.
This specific mechanism of suspense, where the audience possesses critical information that the powerful intervening force lacks, is a hallmark of elite thriller writing.
And the limitations of the audio format amplify this.
We don't see the light hit them. We hear the sudden, panicked reactions of the crew as the glare washes over the deck,
followed immediately by the announcer's voice cutting through the chaos.
Every single 15-minute installment terminates precisely at these moments of maximum peril.
The pacing is absolutely relentless.
The announcer interrupts the action right as the tension peaks. Typhoon signal number 3 is up. The searchlight has found them. The black shark is turning to intercept.
And then commands the audience to listen in tomorrow.
It's brilliant.
It really is. But I want to analyze the mechanics of the peril itself, because this show doesn't rely on generic danger. The transition from the military evasion to the environmental catastrophe of the typhoon showcases an astonishing commitment to nautical realism.
Oh, the hard engineering in this script is incredible.
The storm sequence in the China Sea is not resolved through luck or simplistic heroics.
No, it is resolved through the rigorous application of maritime physics.
As the typhoon signal elevates to number 7, placing them on the edge of the storm's violent center, the vocabulary of the script shifts entirely to technical seamanship.
They don't vaguely describe the waves. They discuss the necessity of double reefing the mainsail to reduce the surface area exposed to the gale force winds.
Yes, they detail the process of hoisting a storm trysail, a specialized heavy-duty sail designed explicitly for extreme weather.
And the crisis accelerates when the sheer velocity of the wind shreds the storm trysail entirely.
The Spindrift instantly loses its stabilizing forward momentum and is in immediate danger of broaching.
Right, being forced broadside to the massive mountainous waves.
The characters describe the ship being knocked onto its beam's ends, meaning it is leaning so far over that the deck is nearly perpendicular to the water, risking a complete capsize.
Their survival depends on deploying highly specific, authentic survival technology.
Uncle Jim and Jack tether themselves to the deck with lifelines and crawl to the bow to deploy a sea anchor.
Which is fascinating. Deploying the sea anchor shifts the physics of their survival.
Because they aren't dropping a heavy iron weight to the seafloor, right?
No, that would be impossible and useless in deep ocean swells. They utilize a large conical canvas drag.
And when thrown into the water from the bow, the Candace cone catches the water much like a parachute catches the air.
The immense drag forces the bow of the spindrift to turn and point directly into the oncoming waves, preventing the fatal broadside exposure.
It essentially acts as an aquatic brake, stabilizing the vessel's orientation.
But the orientation alone isn't enough. Because the waves are still cresting, the tops of the swells are breaking and crashing down with enough localized force to crush the wooden deck.
So they deploy a second piece of practical physics, the oil bag.
Oh, this part is so cool.
Billy crawls forward with a can of oil, saturates an oakum bag, and they run it out on a line connected to the sea anchor.
And Uncle Jim provides this rapid, crucial explanation of fluid dynamics to the audience.
Right. The oil slowly leaks and creates a slick on the surface of the water ahead of the bow.
And the oil does not reduce the height of the waves, but its altered surface tension prevents the wind from biting into the water and tearing the tops off the swells.
It smooths the breakers, turning crushing impacts into rolling swells.
The educational density of this sequence is remarkable.
Seriously, a kid listening in a landlocked state in 1940 is absorbing advanced fluid dynamics and maritime survival strategies.
The narrative respects the intelligence of its audience, presenting high-stakes action grounded firmly in mechanical reality.
And this blending of traditional survival techniques with advanced engineering continues when the storm passes and they reach the calm but treacherous waters of the Sulu Sea.
Right, because traditional navigation fails them here. They cannot spot the submerged coral reef from the low vantage point of the schooner's deck,
They hit a technological wall.
which forces Uncle Jim to unveil an incredibly fascinating piece of experimental 1940s aviation tech.
The autogyro.
Yes,
They literally use a block and tackle to hoist this wingless aircraft out of the cargo hold and swing it over the side onto the ocean's surface.
the inclusion of the autogyro is a brilliant historical touchpoint.
Totally.
Invented by Juan de la Cierva in the 1920s, the autogyro is the direct mechanical predecessor to the modern helicopter.
But its physics operate quite differently.
Exactly. Unlike a helicopter where the engine drives the top rotor to pull the aircraft upward, an autogyro's engine only powers a front propeller for forward thrust. The large overhead rotor is entirely unpowered. As the aircraft moves forward, the air flowing up through the rotor blades causes them to spin automatically.
A phenomenon called autorotation.
Right. And this spinning generates the lift. They were equipped with pontoons for water takeoffs and were highly experimental.
Capturing the aerospace fascination of the pre-war era.
And the script doesn't just treat it like a magical flying car.
No, Jack and Billy engage in a detailed technical breakdown for Betty, explaining the mechanics of autorotation.
Jack's description of the launch sequence is incredibly tactile.
He describes sealing himself in the noise-proof enclosed cockpit, the heavy scent of aviation fuel,
The mechanical whine of engaging the inertia starter.
and monitoring the oil temperature gauges as the engine comes to life. It grounds the exotic exploration in heavy, greasy, mechanical reality.
And that mechanical grounding makes the subsequent discovery of the wreck feel entirely earned.
Right. They execute a systematic aerial search pattern flying 30 feet above the water.
Jack uses the elevated vantage point to read the subtle chromatic shifts in the ocean swells, identifying the lighter green water that betrays the presence of the invisible coral wall lurking just beneath the surface.
Once the reef is located, the technological focus shifts from aerodynamics back to hydrostatic pressure and deep-sea diving mechanics.
The diving sequence strips away any romanticized notion of underwater exploration.
It really does. This isn't modern scuba gear. It's the oppressive, claustrophobic reality of 1940s deep-sea salvage.
They are utilizing heavy canvas suits mated to massive brass helmets that must be mechanically clamped and sealed to a breastplate.
The physical toll is immense. Jack remarks on the crushing weight of the gear while standing on the deck.
And Uncle Jim has to explain the necessity of the heavy lead-weighted shoes.
The lead is required to counteract the immense buoyancy of the air-filled suit, allowing them to maintain traction on the ocean floor without floating away in the currents.
And the communication array they use is a vital narrative device here.
They are tethered to the surface not just by air hoses, but by a three-way copper telephone line connecting Jack's helmet, Uncle Jim's helmet, and a receiver on the deck.
Operated by Billy, who is simultaneously monitoring the manual air pumps.
This closed communication loop allows the writers to generate dialogue in an environment that should be silent.
Billy becomes the ultimate audience surrogate.
He is trapped on the surface, entirely blind to the environment below, experiencing the claustrophobic dread purely through the panicked voices transmitting up the wire.
And the environment Jack and Uncle Jim describe over that wire is haunting.
They describe the ambient light filtering down 30 feet, turning the water into a glowing, eerie green twilight.
They locate the rusted, algae-covered remains of the yacht's wheelhouse.
The physical labor required just to move is immense. They have to utilize heavy underwater flashlights and swing axes through the dense water resistance just to pry the warp tab and doors open.
But the sophisticated technology, the autogyro, the diving suits, the radio arrays, is ultimately secondary to the human element.
Oh, for sure. The hardware is merely a tool. Survival requires extreme competence, discipline, and trust.
Which leads us to a critical analysis of the character dynamics.
Jack Armstrong represents a very specific, carefully constructed archetype of American heroism that contrasts sharply with other popular figures of the era.
Yeah, if we look at the broader pulp landscape of the 30s and 40s, we see the dominance of the lone wolf vigilante.
Characters like the Shadow or the Lone Ranger.
Right, who operate outside traditional structures, possess singular genius or fighting prowess, and single-handedly dismantle criminal empires.
Jack Armstrong operates on an entirely different paradigm.
His heroism is firmly rooted in humility and an absolute reliance on the collective competence of his team.
He is undeniably brave, but he never usurps authority or pretends to possess knowledge he lacks.
He consistently defers to Uncle Jim's strategic command and nautical experience.
He trusts Billy and Betty to execute critical functions on the ship. His leadership is defined by his capacity to synthesize the strengths of those around him.
This reliance on collective strength is most profoundly demonstrated through his dynamic with Michelle, the Filipino sailor.
Oh, Michelle is the MVP of this arc.
Absolutely. Michelle's introduction to the narrative is highly unconventional.
During the storm in Manila Harbor, Betty spots a figure swimming in the chaotic, dark waves.
And they eventually discover Michelle hiding in the paint locker of the Spindrift.
He is a stowaway, but he hasn't infiltrated the ship for malicious reasons.
No, he overheard a sailor from the Black Shark detailing Chapato's plan to shadow the Spindrift, let them locate the Sunken Reef, and then ambush them for the uranium.
Michelle risks his life swimming through a typhoon to warn Jack and Uncle Jim, simply stating, "I want to help you."
And the immediate trust Jack and Uncle Jim place in Michelle is striking.
They don't confine him, they integrate him into the crew.
And Michelle fundamentally alters the survival calculus of the expedition. He is hyper-competent.
He possesses a depth of localized indigenous maritime expertise that the American protagonists entirely lack.
Like when Chapato dispatches a spy in a rowboat to surveil the Spindrift in the dark harbor. Michelle doesn't wait for orders.
He wordlessly dives over the rail into the pitch-black water, swims silently through the swells, incapacitates the spy, and rows the boat back to the schooner.
The narrative continually respects and elevates Michelle's specific skill set.
When Jack expresses awe at his abilities, noting his exceptional swimming and fighting prowess, Michelle casually attributes it to his history-sailing local Filipino schooners.
And Jack immediately recognizes the technical implication of this.
Right. Filipino schooners typically lack the deep, heavy keels of an American vessel like the Spindrift.
This means Michelle has survived typhoons in vastly more unstable, dangerous craft, making his seamanship objectively superior to theirs in these specific waters.
He is not a subordinate. He is the definitive maritime expert on board.
And his expertise culminates in a sequence of visceral, almost mythic combat during the salvage operation.
The shark fight. Let's establish the physical geometry of this scene.
Okay, lay it out.
Jack and Uncle Jim are 30 feet down, locked in their heavy brass helmets, walking the slanted deck of the sunken yacht.
They have breached the captain's cabin and located the heavy lead box containing the uranium-235.
But as they attempt to move it, the ocean currents shift the wreckage, and their air hoses become hopelessly tangled in the jagged metal of the ship's superstructure.
They are completely immobilized. The canvas suits offer no agility.
If they exert too much force attempting to pull free, they risk severing the rubber hoses.
Which would result in immediate drowning.
Right. So they utilize the three-way phone to transmit a distress signal to Billy on the surface. They need someone to dive down and manually clear the lines.
Michelle acts instantly. He doesn't have the luxury of a diving suit or an air supply.
He is a free diver, holding his breath, armed only with a long knife gripped in his teeth.
He plunges into the water and swims down 30 feet to the wreckage.
But as he begins the delicate work of untangling the lines, Betty, monitoring the operation from the rail of the Spindrift, begins screaming.
Because through the clear green water, She sees a massive 12-foot shark entering the wreck site.
The audio framing of this encounter is a masterclass in subjective terror.
It really is. Jack and Uncle Jim, trapped inside the submerged cabin, have no visual angle on the shark or Michelle.
They are experiencing the attack entirely through the frantic, distorted audio of Billy narrating the event from the surface over the helmet radios.
Billy is broadcasting the horror in real time as the shark begins its circling pattern, banking on its side to assess Michelle.
And the mechanics of the fight are incredibly precise. Michelle doesn't thrash or attempt to flee.
Right, movements that would instantly trigger the shark's predatory strike response.
He treads water, conserving his limited oxygen, maintaining visual lock on the animal.
When the shark executes its first high-speed rushing attack, Michelle evades the jaws and drives his knife into its flank.
But the strike fails to deter the predator. The shark banks sharply, reacquires its target, and charges a second time.
This time with its massive jaws unhinged and locked open.
At this moment, Michelle executes a maneuver that requires superhuman timing and spatial awareness.
As Billy screams over the radio that Michelle is extending his arm directly into the path of the oncoming jaws.
Michelle waits for the exact fraction of a second before the bite connects. He drives his long knife vertically into the shark's open mouth,
lodging the hilt against the lower jaw and the point into the roof of the upper palate.
He physically props the jaws open.
Billy is screaming over the radio. The shark can't close his mouth. It's wedged open with Michelle's knife.
The mechanical inability to close its jaws induces sheer panic in the animal, and it breaks off the attack, thrashing away into the gloom, completely neutralized.
It's unbelievable.
Uncle Jim, listening to this broadcast from inside his brass helmet, delivers the ultimate validation of the feat, telling Jack, "I've heard of it, but I never expected to see it."
It is a shockingly violent, kinetic resolution that contrasts brilliantly with the cold, scientific nature of the uranium they are trying to extract.
And the shark attack serves a vital thematic purpose. It reinforces the reality that the ocean is an impartial, hostile ecosystem.
Right. The marine life doesn't care about the geopolitical implications of atomic power or the rivalry between the two schooners.
It is simply another vector of lethal pressure applied to the protagonists.
And that pressure doesn't dissipate once they defeat the environment. It merely shifts back to the human element.
Once they finally winch the ton-heavy lead box of uranium-235 onto the deck of the Spindrift, the geopolitical threat instantly re-engages.
The black shark has finally navigated the reef network and is bearing down on their position.
The tactical situation is disastrous. The Spindrift is heavily laden with the uranium, relying on a light breeze, generating a maximum speed of perhaps 4 knots.
The black shark, unburdened and running its massive diesel engine at maximum RPM, is cutting through the water at 10 knots.
The mathematical reality is inescapable. Chapato will intercept them before they can reach the open ocean.
And a physical confrontation is not a viable option. Chapato's crew is heavily armed, outnumbering and outgunning the Spindrift.
Uncle Jim acknowledges the bleak reality. If they are boarded, they will be forced to dump the lead box into the deep ocean trench to prevent the atomic material from falling into hostile hands,
entirely sacrificing the mission.
But Uncle Jim refuses to concede the prize. Instead of preparing for a hopeless firefight, he executes a tactical maneuver based entirely on hydrography and psychological manipulation.
This is where brains over brawn really comes in.
He analyzes the physical specifications of the two vessels. The Spindrift, designed for agility, possesses a shallow draft. Its hull extends only 6 feet beneath the waterline.
The black shark, weighed down by its heavy diesel power plant, draws significantly deeper water.
Uncle Jim cross-references this architectural disparity with his knowledge of the local bathymetry.
The invisible coral reef surrounding them is mostly submerged at a depth of 3 to 4 feet, lethal to both ships.
However, Uncle Jim has charted one highly specific, narrow channel through the coral that offers exactly 7 feet of clearance.
The trap he constructs is brilliantly brazen.
The Spindrift carefully sails directly through that 7-foot channel, clearing the jagged coral by a mere 12 inches.
Once safely across, they execute a precise deception. Billy takes a standard life preserver, ties it to a heavy anchor, and drops it into the water directly over the channel they just traversed.
It acts as a highly visible, fabricated marker buoy.
Having set the bait, they execute the most counterintuitive maneuver possible.
They come about, filling their sails, and steer the Spindrift directly back toward the oncoming black shark.
It's an act of psychological warfare. Dr. Chapato, observing this through his binoculars, must be completely bewildered.
He has them cornered, and suddenly the prey is charging the predator.
But Uncle Jim holds the course just long enough to ensure Chapato is completely fixated on their movements.
Then, simulating absolute panic, the Spindrift crew spins the wheel, hauls the rigging, and flees frantically back toward the reef.
Chapato processes the visual data and draws the exact erroneous conclusion Uncle Jim engineered.
He sees the Spindrift fleeing. He sees the life preserver bobbing on the surface, explicitly marking a specific location on the reef.
And crucially, he watched the Spindrift sail directly over that specific location moments earlier without sustaining damage.
Operating under the intense psychological pressure of greed and the adrenaline of the chase, Chapato suffers catastrophic tunnel vision.
He deduces that the buoy marks a deep-water channel safe for all vessels.
He assumes the water depth is absolute, failing to account for the relative draft of his own heavier ship.
He doesn't reduce engine RPM. He doesn't order soundings to check the depth.
The Black Shark roars forward at top speed. The Spindrift glides smoothly over the 7-foot gap.
The Black Shark, drawing deeper water, hits the coral wall at 10 knots.
The kinetic energy of a heavy diesel ship hitting a stationary coral reef at that speed is devastating.
The sheer impact violently lifts the entire hull of the Black Shark out of the water, instantaneously ripping the bottom out of the vessel.
The ship is immobilized, irreparably damaged, and entirely at the mercy of the elements.
Jack and Uncle Jim observe the destruction from the safety of their deck. They have neutralized a superior, heavily armed enemy vessel without discharging a single firearm.
The climax is an absolute triumph of intellect over aggression.
They weaponize the bathymetry of the ocean and the inherent arrogance of their adversary to achieve a flawless victory.
Leaving Chapato stranded on the reef to await the next typhoon, while the Spindrift sails on toward Mindanao with the atomic prize secured.
This resolution is fundamentally why the character of Jack Armstrong endured so powerfully.
The ethos of the narrative dictates that victory belongs to those who observe their environment, understand physics, collaborate with their allies, and maintain their composure.
Violence is depicted as a tool of the desperate or the corrupt. Intellect and navigation are the tools of the righteous.
It is a highly sophisticated moral and mechanical framework wrapped in a thrilling serial format.
As we synthesize the impact of this deep dive, it becomes clear why these 80-year-old audiophiles retain their grip on our imagination.
The writing forces the listener into a state of hyper-engagement. When Billy narrates the shark circling in the green water, or when the 15-mile searchlight begins its sweep, the listener's brain is working at maximum capacity to render the terror.
Which leads to a fascinating technological paradox.
Today, we see Silicon Valley investing billions of dollars into spatial audio, neural interfaces, and highly advanced virtual reality headsets.
The stated goal of all this bleeding-edge technology is to achieve total immersion.
Right, to block out the physical world and place the user directly in the center of a synthesized environment, tricking the brain into feeling genuine spatial presence and adrenaline.
But when you listen to the sheer terror generated by a thunder sheet and a well-written script in 1940, you have to wonder.
Are we spending billions of dollars on hardware just to artificially recreate the exact same neurological state that a glowing wooden box and a 15-minute radio broadcast achieved 80 years ago?
Did the golden age of radio already perfect virtual reality by simply requiring the human mind to do the rendering?
It's a profound question about how we consume media and a perfect reason to seek out these original audio landscapes. We encourage you to keep exploring the vast archives of classic radio. The signal is still broadcasting, waiting for you to tune in.